Welcome to the third episode of the Get Set Go keynote series. My name is Rosina. If you haven't already, you can check out all the previous episodes from our website or channel. To begin our session today, I would like to first acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land on which the university stands. We respectfully recognize elders past, present, and future. Our Mighty Curatorial Collective is a student-led collective, and we are a group of passionate creators and researchers who aims to help emerging artists to develop and contribute their potentials in the community to enhance cultural diversity and inclusion. You can find out more from our website and social media. The RMIT Creator Program is launched to foster connections between RMIT students, alumni, and the creative sector. The first part of the project, Get Set Go, highlights keynote sharings given by professional creative experts and cross-sector creative pioneers. The second part, The Beacon, pairs our RMIT alumni from the creative industry with current students to offer a 30-minute advisory conversation. So if you would like to express your interest, please check out our website for more information and how to apply. Today, we have Monica Davison, a creative industry business advisor and the founder of Creative Plus Business, to share her experience and the story that led to her success today. Monica was named one of the AFR 100 Women of Influence, and in 2019, she received the inaugural Creative Trailblazer Award from the CEA at QUT. Her Creative Plus Business has helped thousands of individuals develop all aspects of their creative businesses. I now welcome Monica for a talk.
Hi, RMIT creators. My name's Monica Davidson, and I've been invited to speak to you today about creative entrepreneurship. I wish I could be there in person, or I wish I could be presenting this to you live, but unfortunately pre-recording is what I've had to do, so apologies for that. I'd like to kick off, of course, by acknowledging the land that I'm on. So I'm currently on Gadigal land. I live and work on Gadigal country here in Sydney. I was born on Awabakal land, which is about 200 kilometres north of here, and my family has a close connection to Wiradjuri mob. We have done for many years. So I would like to pay my respects in particular to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across the whole of our beautiful nation. I'd like to pay particular respect to the elders of this country, and particularly the country that I'm on. I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to any Indigenous Torres Strait Islander First Nations people who are joining us today. I love the tradition of the acknowledgement of country, and I think it's really wonderful. I love that we do it. And, I know so often people just kind of recite words, but for me, it's great pleasure to be able to acknowledge this land and to talk about the fact that it was never ceded, and to really pay respect, genuinely pay respect to the people that were here first and who are the original and ongoing custodians of this country that we're all privileged to be on. So, as mentioned, my name is Monica. Hi. I'm a creative practitioner. I'm a writer. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm an occasional performer. And I've been doing all of those things for 35 years. 34, actually. It's going to be 35 next year. I round it up. I probably shouldn't do that at my age. You don't want to round up. You definitely want to round down. And I've worked in all of those creative professions for basically the whole of my adult life. I still work in those professions, although they are no longer my primary source of income. 6 years ago, I founded a social enterprise called Creative Plus Business. We're primarily an educational organisation, and we're dedicated to helping creative people at any stage of their professional development to get better at their entrepreneurial skills, which is probably why I've been invited today to talk to you about creative entrepreneurship. Oh, amazing. And I obviously want to talk a little bit about Creative Plus Business because it's a resource, and it's a resource for you. And I built it for you, not you specifically, obviously, don't know you. But I built it for you because I built it for me in the past. I built it for Monica 30 years ago, which is when I was sort of, graduating from my first degree. And I think that's what I really want to talk to you about today is why that happened, because it was just so completely unexpected. I know I'm here to talk about business, but please don't turn off, okay? Hang in there, because I never in a million years thought that business was where I was going to end up. Never in a million. I still sometimes wonder how this happened. I know how it happened. I'm going to tell you the story, but it's still weird to me. I wonder if I actually put the word business in the title of my organization so I wouldn't forget that that's what this is all about. I had the great privilege of being raised in an extremely creative household. My mother was and is an artist. My father was a musician. My stepfather was a musician. We like nobody had a proper job, you know. Didn't really understand where the money came from, and we didn't have very much, but creativity was a highly prized activity and a highly prized state of being. And so, I mean, I remember being encouraged to paint on the walls. I mean, clearly things were bananas at my house compared to what was happening in other people's places. I get that now, but I didn't know that when I was a kid. And so when I told my parents that I wanted to be a writer when I was 8, my mum essentially said, well, you already are a writer. And I thought, oh, well, that's easy. That was easy. Great. So I just did writing, and it kind of progressed from there. And when I was 16, I told my mum that I wanted to be a filmmaker. I had been on the track to go to law school, and then I kind of went, I don't want to go to law school. That's super boring. I want to make movies because I love movies. And I told my mum, and my mum said, well, that seems like a really sensible choice because it will bring together all of the different kinds of things that you really enjoy. I was into my adulthood before I realized what a gift that was, and that most young people don't get that kind of encouragement. I never had the conversation about having a plan B, except with like careers advisors and dumb people who didn't really know me. I mean, within my circles, whatever I said I was going to do, I was actively encouraged to do it. And so I did. And that was extraordinary. And I was able to progress quite well, particularly as a student. I did really well. I directed films at uni. I was head of my student television, which was a thing. You know, I did really well. And then I graduated. And I graduated into a recession, which is another reason why I'm so happy to be able to talk to you, because you're all facing a similar impediment, not of your making. So I'm sure at the beginning of this pandemic, you saw the images of people standing outside Centrelink with their mullets from the early 1990s, late 1980s. Well, that was me too, without the mullet, standing outside of then Centrelink thinking, what's happening? I was sold a lie, like all of the people in my generation. We were sold a lie by our parents. We did not know that it was a lie. They didn't know it was a lie either. And feel free to laugh while you're watching this, but we were told that if we did well at school and went to university and got good marks, that we would all walk out of university and straight into jobs, because that had been their experience of going to university. We were also told that university would be free. So fun. So I walked out of university with a debt, which I wasn't expecting to have, and not a job in sight. And so freelancing was something that I'd already been doing. And although I had no intention of continuing, not really, I didn't really know what was next. I just kept doing it because it worked and I got paid for it. Freelancing in crew, working as a freelance journalist, doing whatever I could do. And I learned then, and it was a hard lesson to learn, and it's a lesson that still needs to be learned. I learned then that waiting for the phone to ring is a waste of your time and energy and creativity and abundant amounts of talent. And I think there's a culture of passivity, and it's still there, which is why I'm talking about it. There's still this culture of passivity in creative industries, in the arts particularly. There's this idea that we can make our own work and we can generate our own projects, and we can be plucky little artists and, you know, put on a show or record some music or, you know, make a film with our phones, but eventually success will come because it's given to us. And that has not been my experience in any way. And it's not been the experience of a huge number of successful people that I know and work with and people that I admire. You have the means of production, for which I'm frankly truly envious. It may not seem this way, but, back in the pre-digital age, making your own work and getting your own work seen by an audience or read by people, or having participants in whatever it is that you were going to create was extremely hard. It's hard to find those eyeballs now, but at least you can find them. We had no means of finding those eyeballs back in the day. So don't wait. Don't wait for the phone to ring. Don't wait for that email to come in. Don't just sit there looking pretty and hoping that someone will ask you to dance. No one is going to ask you to dance. Also, you don't get to have any agency when you treat your career that way. You don't get to decide what happens next. You just have to sit there and wait for something to happen. You have to wait for opportunity to come to you. And some of you are going to be entitled and privileged and lucky, and that will happen. And some of you won't have that experience. But waiting for success, waiting for something to happen to you, is going to take a long time. That's part of where the beginning of entrepreneurialism happened for me, although I did not know that word and I did not apply that word to myself in any way. I just thought of it as making stuff happen, throwing myself into activities, volunteering myself for things, taking on work even though I didn't really know how to do it, saying yes and then figuring it out afterwards. That entrepreneurial mindset, that more active, proactive approach. I didn't really have a choice. I had to do that because there were no jobs. There was nothing. There was no jobs. There was no money. I mean, I was the dole for 3 years on and off trying to figure this stuff out. I mean, I got there eventually, but only because the recession started to move along, not because of anything that I was doing particularly well. And that's just, me being honest. That's probably going to be similar to your experience as well. You're graduating into a completely unknown industry. I'm trying to liken what you're going to graduate into with what I graduated into, but of course it's completely different. And I would never be so disrespectful to your experience to assume that I know what it's like or what it's going to be like. But I learned from my experience that waiting was not going to get me anywhere, and that getting out there and making stuff happen was more effective. And that is essentially the essence of entrepreneurialism. Where it dovetailed into business for me was when I directed my first feature film. I directed it when I was 23 years old, and I was this plucky little talent. I'm sure the fact that I was female obviously had something to do with the fact that so many people were sort of staring at me, waiting for something to happen. It was really terrible film. I mean, not good, but I mean, it was a film and I directed it, and it didn't suck too hard. I'd probably be a bit embarrassed about it if it ever had been released, but that's the thing, it never got released. And it didn't get released because of a whole lot of legal and financial and business issues that I had absolutely no understanding of, and I got screwed. I got really badly screwed. I didn't get paid properly. I didn't get to have a say in what happened to me. I was so excited about being offered the opportunity to direct a film. And I was still so naive about the power of money and law and business that I didn't think that world had anything to do with me. And although that incredibly supportive creative environment that I was raised in was the be and all and everything of how I got started, it didn't teach me anything about that world. And I didn't think I needed to know anything about that world until my lack of understanding and my ignorance of that world led me to being exploited by bad people and effectively, and metaphorically, obviously, punched in the face. I spent a lot of time crying. I felt in a way like my career was over at that point. I'm 23 years old with a failed feature film under my belt. Hooray. I learned a huge amount about how this world works from that experience. And the easy version of that story is that I was exploited by bad people, and that is true. The hard part of that story, and the reason I'm sharing it with you, is because I made it possible for those people to exploit me. I did not know what I was doing. I had never been taught, but I didn't learn. And I sort of had two revelations at that point. I had the revelation that what had just happened to me was terrible and probably one of the worst things that would ever happen to me professionally. And, what, it's now many, many years later, and that is still true. And touch wood, it will still be the worst thing that ever happened to me professionally, way back in my past. But the other thing it taught me was that I had a responsibility to learn. I had a responsibility to protect myself by learning more about simple things like contracts and how to negotiate a fee for myself that felt right, and how to be more proactive, but in a deliberate and strategic way, not in a kind of just flinging myself out there and hoping for the best way, but actually driving my own car, being the boss of my own destiny, taking myself in the direction of where I wanted to go. And although up until that moment, I'd always thought that I was pretty proactive, it was only really that experience that made me realize that I was still waiting for success to ask me to dance. And it had. And then it had just dropped me in the middle of the dance floor. And in order to avoid that happening again, I had to embrace something that I had never in a million years thought would be part of my world, business. So I did, and it kind of worked, and I started learning stuff. And what I say to everyone that participates in any of my workshops, what I'm saying to you now, is that the world of business, the world of money, the world of law and marketing, these are not intellectually difficult worlds. You don't need to have any particular talent to be good at business. You don't need to be good at maths to know how to make your money work for you. I still suck at maths. If it wasn't for having a calculator in my phone, I would have no idea. But I have a calculator in my phone, so I don't need to be able to remember advanced calculus from year 10. I can do it in my phone. Everything that you need to be more proactive and entrepreneurial in your career, you can learn. It is boring and frankly a bit yucky and extremely challenging, not intellectually so much, but just challenging in terms of you really having to grapple with yourself, how you've been taught to be a creative professional in this world, and how you've been taught to see creative professionalism in this world. It might be challenging for you because up until this moment, you may have been told that this isn't even really a job, this thing that you want to do, and that you might have to have a plan B already in place, because even though you haven't even tried plan A yet, the possibility of failure is so great that you might as well not even bother with plan A and just go straight to plan B, which to me means that the people who are telling you about plan B actually don't really understand what plan A is. Surely you have to give plan A a go and give it your best shot. And then if you profoundly suck at plan A, okay, then maybe having a backup plan is a good idea. But why would you do your backup plan first when you haven't even done your first plan? I've thought about this a lot, and I think I'm digressing. But anyway, everything that you need to be your own boss and be in charge of your destiny is there. It's there for you to learn. And that's part of the reason why I set up Creative Plus Business, because I started to learn how to do it. And then after a while, people started to ask me for help because they also wanted to learn how to do it. And although I was still working primarily as a writer and then as a filmmaker, I ran a film production company for 20 years that I started. In all of that time, as a kind of side hustle, I suppose, I was helping people to develop their business skills and teaching people about marketing and money and all that kind of stuff. And then, I kind of got to a point where I thought, I think I want to do just that now. I think I just want to help people to learn about this stuff and learn about it properly. And in a not surprising turn of events, that also coincided with my 3 kids, who are now all in their 20s and have all been through the experience that you're going through. They also all work in creative practice, and they're all still experiencing the same issues that I experienced when I was them, all those years ago, 30 years ago. And frankly, my parents experienced when they were there 50 years ago. It doesn't have to be like that. You can embrace these ideas of entrepreneurialism. The learning of the things is, like I said, it's boring and yucky, and it will take a while. And if it's got some maths in it, it might be hard for some of you, but you can do it. And you might be wondering why you would even bother. And that's because you're going to have to make up your own path. Old farts like me have absolutely no idea what's coming for you. Okay, we just don't. And anyone who tells you that they know what's coming for you is frankly full of it. I had lots of old farts telling me what was going to happen when I was in your situation. And within 3 years, we were talking about digital media, and all of a sudden, all of the years of making films on film and learning how to make films on film was all of a sudden completely redundant. And all of those people who'd said that they knew what was in store for me had absolutely no idea. I have no idea what's in store for you, and frankly, neither do you. So you've got a couple of options here. My suggestion is that you think about building yourself a solid little ship, a career ship, if you like, a little ship that is made up of your knowledge and experience, and there's gaps between the wood of your ship, knowledge gaps and learning gaps and skills gaps. So you take some time and you fill in those gaps. And if you're not very good at money stuff, you go and learn. And if you're not really good at legal stuff, you go and learn. And then once you feel like you've got a pretty solid little career ship here, and you feel like, all right, I think I'm ready to go. If you're the captain of your own ship, you've only got 2 jobs. Build a really solid little ship that can withstand pretty much anything that gets thrown at it, and then figure out where the hell you want to go. And then go. There might be dragons, and there might be big waves, and it might be really boring, and it might be really exciting. Who knows? All you can do from an entrepreneurial point of view is, arm yourself, surround yourself with helpful people and the resources that you need, and your natural intelligence and your incredible curiosity, and have the courage of your convictions to remember to ask for help, and to remember to have a rest every now and then, and remember that you are not the first person to have embarked on this same ocean, and maybe give plan A a really, really good shot before you go back to plan B. Thank you so much for giving me your precious time. I wish you every possible success as you venture forth, with my strange analogy. And honestly, if you do want to get any further information about how to build up your entrepreneurial skills, just visit creativeplusbusiness.com, because that's what we're there for. Thanks again so much for having me. Bye.
Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing your inspiring stories and advice. You can reach out to her about any particular questions by visiting thecreativeplusbusiness.com. And tomorrow, we have Tilly Boland, who is the head of the curatorial at Science Gallery, Melbourne, on the topic of solving real problems, science and art. Also, if you are looking for some advice about your creative career, remember to check out part 2 of the RMIT Creative Projects, The Beacon, which gives current RMIT students an opportunity to have an advisory conversation with RMIT alumni from the industry. You can find all the information on our website. Find an RMIT Creator is the third part of the creative program. It is a database of RMIT alumni in the creative sector to enhance RMIT's professional community and encourage partnerships and collaboration opportunities. So if you would like to stay up to date with what we do, you can follow us on both Facebook and Instagram. And thank you again for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.